everybody. I'm not going to share my presentation. I'm just going to talk through it because I was having an issue sharing. For those that don't know me, my name's Christian. 30 years ago, and a little over 30 years ago, in 1987, I was recruited into America's first neo-Nazi skinhead group. I was 14 years old at the time, and I spent 8 years until the time I was 23 years old as a member of that group. Eventually became one of its leaders, and went on to form a propaganda band that put out racist music before touring the world around 1990, 1991 with that. I was 14 years old when I was recruited, so it wasn't the ideology that drew me in. It was really a sense of identity, community, and purpose that I was searching for. And in fact, in the project that I work with now, the Free Radicals Project, where we help pull people out of hate groups and extremism, what we found is that most people, if not all people who are attracted to these types of movements do so, not necessarily because of the ideology, but because of a search for identity, community, and purpose. Eventually, I was able to get out through interaction with the people that I thought I hated. I had kept myself separate from them for 8 years, never given myself the opportunity to interact or to try and understand the people I thought I hated, until I was put in a situation where I had that opportunity, and I realized that I had been demonizing people instead of humanizing them without really knowing what they were about. And through the we've heard public health approach talked about, and through the Free Radicals Project, that's exactly how we approach disengagement, is through a public health approach. We do so by trying to repair the foundation underneath people, knowing that it's their life's potholes that kind of detoured them to the fringes where they found those narratives. So we apply things like therapy or job training or life coaching, mentoring, things like that, to try and help people disengage from that, and we've been very successful. We've helped over 300 people disengage from extremist groups because of that. What I'm seeing happening now in terms of the pandemic and COVID-19 is it's kind of the perfect storm for extremist groups right now. Andrea mentioned uncertainty and fear being the biggest drivers for this, and I couldn't agree more with that. When there is uncertainty or when there is fear, people tend to look for options outside of the norm, and it's also the time when extremist groups are the loudest, trying to provide those options through things like conspiracy theories, fake news, and propaganda. What we're seeing happening now, because of all this, the uncertainty and fear, specifically on the far right, and that's what I'm going to focus on, is that the propagandists have come out in full force. People like Alex Jones, some of the more typical larger scale propaganda operations have moved to doing a couple of things. One, blaming the virus on an ethnic group. So in terms of calling it the Chinese virus, things like that. So making it a racist virus, painting it in a xenophobic way. But they're also using it as an opportunity to tell their followers that the government is taking their rights away. So there's this whole kind of idea that that the government is clamping down more, and this is typically a group that followers don't trust already. So when governments start to put in other rules like stay-at-home orders and things like that, they try to paint that as a way that the government is taking their rights away from them, rallying supporters. We've seen a lot of stay-at-home protests on some of the Capitol steps in some of our states, where groups, anything from the Oath Keepers to the Three Percenters to the Proud Boys, have shown up, both to kind of protest and make a statement, but also to bring weapons and to strike fear just through the imagery that's there. Groups like the Proud Boys have staged shutdowns at some of the protests, even shutdowns near some of the hospitals and first responders. So they've stopped intersections so ambulances couldn't get through, things like that. There's been some talk with the accelerationists of weaponizing the COVID-19 by, if they were to get infected, they would then go out and spread it further. But what I'm mostly seeing, and I wish there's one photo that I wish I could show you, but and it is white supremacists attending some of these rallies, holding signs that say, you know, the real plague, and then it's a picture of a rat with a Star of David on it. So they're trying to now paint this as not just a health plague, but a social plague brought on by certain other people. I'm going to use my last 2 minutes just to kind of really highlight some of the things that I want to warn people about. And while we think about, you know, attacks and things against soft targets happening during pandemics and times of crisis like this, what I would really like to warn people about is how they are recruiting online during this time, because so many, well, we're all online now more than ever because we're all home and we're finding our community through virtual spaces. So historically, white supremacists and extreme right actors have, in the time of the internet, recruited online. So they've gone now to multiplayer online gaming platforms where our children are talking to each other with headsets, playing multiplayer games. It's not the content of the games that's radicalizing people, it's the recruiters that are online with them that are in groups of say 30 or 40 people that might be playing a Call of Duty game. The way that they recruit is they'll say something like the N-word, or they'll say something racist, and they'll gauge how people respond to that who are playing the game. Some people may push back, some people may say nothing at all, and some people may actually laugh along or say something additional. Well, they then start to take those people and they filter those people who've responded positively, even if it is a nervous laugh, they invite them to other groups, and then they keep making that group smaller and smaller and smaller until they become these propaganda units, essentially. They're also trolling and recruiting in places like autism forums, depression forums online, where they know there are vulnerable people there who gather, who might be looking for connection with other people, who may have had trouble establishing social networks in the past in real life, and then in the virtual world, they kind of draw them in to be able to establish that sense of identity, community, and purpose. So those, you know, while we're all sitting at home, while we're all online, while we're all disconnected from real people in a real way, they have completely ramped up their ability to recruit, propagandize, and do everything online. So that's really what concerns me the most right now. And I look forward to your questions. Thank you.